Do these questions sound familiar? Why keep isolating? Aren't we all going to get the virus anyway? Is the plan really to leave the economy shut down until there's a vaccine? The rates of infection are going down. Can we get back to normal now? I've spent the last couple of months diving deeply into the world of epidemiology, transmission data, and modeling the spread of COVID-19. While scientists have a viable path forward and the data to support it, they've done a poor job of explaining it. I hope to address that in the next few minutes. For those of you who just want quick answers, here they are. We don't have to stay as isolated as we have for the past month. Even without full isolation, it's possible to keep infections low so that not everyone would get the disease. We can smartly reduce restrictions while keeping the infection rate low, and we can do it in a way that's sustainable for the economy. And if we went back to normal now, life would get ugly, but a life much closer to normal is possible. Let's dive deeper and see how the data supports these answers. First, how did we get here, and why have we been so extreme in applying mitigation measures like social distancing so far? Here's the chart of daily deaths in the US through the end of March. You can see how the curve around mid-March starts going up and goes up at a rather rapid rate. This is an exponential curve, and this is why scientists and politicians reacted with such a strong response. Exponential functions not only keep growing, but the rate at which they grow keeps increasing. Let me add another line showing a mathematical model of this data. This model, shown in gray, assumes that we never took action. There is no social distancing, no increased hand washing, no home isolation. And through the end of March, the chart of what happened and the model match closely, because no broad social distancing occurred until mid-March, and it takes about 3 weeks before we see the impacts of that reflected in death rates. So what happens if we look ahead to April 15th? The model shows that without social distancing, things would have kept getting worse, much worse. And just looking at the numbers doesn't tell the whole story. What do these numbers actually mean? There are about 55,000 ICU beds in the US. In general, with COVID, we need about 10 to 20 times the number of ICU beds as deaths per day. So at our peak deaths per day, while some areas in New York were strained, most areas of the country still had plenty of capacity available. But had we reached 9,300 deaths per day, we would have needed twice the number of ICU beds available. Now let's look at total deaths through the end of the month. Here we see that social distancing has already saved over 200,000 lives. Because the deaths were clearly increasing exponentially and were within weeks of overloading our medical system, we threw the kitchen sink at the spreading virus. Everything we could think of. And it worked. We not only slowed the spread of the virus, we're reducing it significantly. Looking at the actual daily deaths through today, we have definitely flattened the curve, and hopefully it's beginning to come back down. Once it's down to a low level, we can responsibly start easing up on social distancing. But we have to be careful not to ease restrictions too fast. The model shown here assumes that we stop all social distancing today. You can see that the deaths will continue to go down through mid-May because of the social distancing efforts we've already had, but then rapidly shoots upwards. This virus spreads very quickly compared to other diseases, and that's what drives that exponential growth we saw in March. That rapid rate of spread makes this virus like having the gas pedal stuck in your car. We were able to slam on the brakes and slow things down, but if we let up on the brake too much, things are going to accelerate out of control quickly. While we can't totally go back to the way that things were before, we can get the economy going again while maintaining a low number of new infections. As long as we respond quickly to regional outbreaks, we won't need to go back to the nationwide isolation we've had for the past 6 weeks. The trick is to find that balance that lets us move forward at a steady rate. The first key to getting that balance is to keep isolating until we drive the number of infections extremely low. Keeping the number low is the only way to give us time to react if we relax restrictions too much. If we continue relaxing while we have thousands of deaths daily, things are going to get out of hand quickly. The second key is to aggressively build out our testing and contact tracing capabilities. When testing identifies a newly infected person, contact tracing allows us to find who else they may have infected. Then those people are the only ones who will need to self-isolate. The rest of us can largely keep going to work, shopping, etc. Testing and contact tracing are the bread and butter of fighting most communicable diseases. While those techniques were tried at the beginning of the outbreak, the rapid rate of spread of the virus overwhelmed our capabilities. If we get the number of transmissions low again, and testing is readily available, then those things can make a huge difference and keep us from having to go back to more economically impactful measures. What happens from here is up to us. Here are two different models for total deaths from the disease this year. The University of Washington model in blue shows us what happens if we keep fully isolating until testing and contact tracing capability is built out. The other model, in orange, factors in the fact that many states are loosening restrictions before that capacity exists. You can see that there are significantly more projected deaths through the end of the year if we continue loosening too soon. Even worse, if we stop entirely social distancing today, as some people advocate, you see that the number of deaths increases dramatically. We can get the economy going again, and we can do it while saving tens of thousands of lives. We just need to focus on these two keys. Thank you all for your time.